Hey team, it's Dane McDonald here from the Industry Leaders Podcast, and I'm here at Lighthouse Studios in Bali with the one and only Jackson Peos. Jackson is, I don't really know how to describe this guy other than he is a fucking savage. He's an online coach, he's an entrepreneur. He's built a kingdom here in Bali already in the fitness scene that's only going to continue to grow. So Jackson, thanks for being on the show, brother.
Pleasure to be here and pleasure for that introduction. Thank you, man.
Yeah, it's true. And look, you know me, I don't like blow smoke up people's ass, but you've done...
You don't sugarcoat.
Yeah, like just seeing your growth the last few years, it's been to me like one of the, I guess, success stories in the industry, especially coming out of Australia. I know you've just come out of Pro Camp and we're going to dive into that today. But for those that haven't kind of heard about you, your story, and are getting introduced to you for the first time, like how did you get here today, brother?
I mean, most people would have sort of known me as the science guy. I began studies in sports science and nutrition right out of school, and I guess my initial claim to fame was posting study reviews on my Instagram, and I had these like really shitty Instagram posts that I'd post, which was like a collage of half the top of the image would be the study title, and then the bottom half of the image would be like a Simpsons meme that was somewhat related to the study, and I would just take what was essentially at the time the complex research, and I would just break it down into sort of like a digestible packet for the Gen Pop fitness crew, and it was really well received, and I guess that's what led to me becoming somewhat known in the fitness space while I continued to pursue my studies, which led to first class honors in exercise physiology, and then the university offering me a scholarship to complete my PhD in sports and clinical nutrition, and that was sort of a 5-year very challenging endeavor, which was basically all consuming for me. You know, I really didn't have too much time for anything else. You know, I was completing these very long studies with 60 participants with thousands of hours of data collection, and then thousands of hours of sort of data analysis after that to get these studies published, which I did. You know, I published numerous studies in top scientific journals.
That's how I heard about you.
Yeah.
It was through Lane Norton, and I was speaking to him one day, and I'm like, do you have any kind of up-and-coming PhDs or PhD candidates that you'd recommend in Australasia that kind of are experts in nutrition and training? And you were literally the first name that he mentioned. Yeah,
well, some of my studies were relatively groundbreaking. You know, I ran the biggest weight loss study amongst athletes has ever been done in Australia. Okay. The first person to do research on diet breaks and refeeds in athletes, you know, and that was a very hot topic at the time. So that was sort of, I guess, my introduction into the space, and probably how most of sort of my initial following and fan base would have come to learn me was through that scientific lens. But then sort of finishing my PhD, I started to find myself drawn a little bit more away from the lab and more to sort of being like wanting to be in the gym, in the trenches, you know, and in the trenches, not just with myself and pushing myself as an athlete, but also guiding others to be able to maximize their potential as an athlete. And that's what sort of sent me down, which I guess would be like my second character, which was the online coach. And you know, I had the knowledge, you know, I've read more studies than anyone, you know, and I put the hours in there, and I felt like I had mastery of the theory, but what I was lacking was experience with in the trenches. So I really went hard on sort of building my online coaching brand. And
just side note that, like, I know this, but for those that haven't heard this before, you basically did what a lot try to do but fail to do, is you skipped the step of actually going into the gyms. You were just like, you know what? There's more scale, there's more opportunity online, and went just straight there, correct?
Yeah. And I think because I'd had so much time sort of in the theory and mastering the knowledge base, which I think so many people fail to do, they just sort of want to jump straight in and start working with bodies. It allowed me to grow my business so quickly because I was able to get great results really quickly.
Just through information.
Exactly. It's combining the theory with the practice and with the anecdote. That's what gets you the best results. And then, you know, I was getting good results for people, and then that becomes your best your best marketing strategy, because one good result turns into a good testimonial, which is 5 new inquiries, and it just extrapolates onwards from that. And I built you know, my coaching business into probably arguably one of the most successful Australian online coaching businesses, and the revenue was very, very good, and that allowed me to sort of have a go at some other income.
How old were you at that time?
It would be around 26, 27 was when I had sort of more money that I knew what to do with, kind of thing. And then I was like, okay, well, there's no point sitting on this, you know, and there's no point spending it on fashion and other bullshit. You know, I should start investing this with purpose. And
were you in Bali at this time?
Not yet.
Okay.
I just planned to move. So the move came about during COVID. You know, I just started being really successful doing the nomad thing and building my online coaching business. And then COVID hits, and we can't go to the gym, and we can't see each other, and WA was
can't go outdoors,
as strict as anywhere. Couldn't go outdoors, and I was like, well, damn, I just busted my ass with eight years of university, and busted my ass to build this successful online business, but life sucks. Like this doesn't feel right. So I was like, where's a place that I can go where they can't really shut it down, and third world countries, they can't really shut them down during COVID because people starve to death if they're not working. And so I knew that, you know, I weighed up options. Bali was close. I'd been there a number of times. I knew my way around. I was like, okay, I'll just duck out for now, because I have nothing.
Little side trip.
Yeah, I have nothing that I necessarily need to be in Australia for. I'll just duck out, go train, you know, do the stuff that I want to do, and then, you know, when the COVID thing clears off, I'll make my way back to Australia. But then once I got here, you know, the lifestyle was just so damn good.
I've been here for 9 days, and the wife and I are already talking about, like, fuck, should we like spend half the year or something like this? Because it's just like
it's really infectious,
awesome.
because the weather's always good. The local people are as kind and generous as you find anywhere else in the world.
Beautiful people.
And then even, you know, the tourists that are here and the Westerners that are here, because most of them are kind of like
nomads
on holiday or nomads. They're all kind of happy, you know. No one's kind of like got their head in their hands, sort of on their way to their 9 to 5 office job that they fucking hate.
Very true.
So the energy and the vibe of
100%.
all the people around here is just nice. And you know, I'm a big believer that you're a product of your environment, and you thrive off the people that are around you. You know, if you're around people that are all sort of grumpy and depressed, you're naturally going to be brought down to their level unconsciously. But if you're around people that are sort of happy and bubbly, and, you know, Hattie Boydles everywhere, and doing that, you're naturally going to elevate, 100%. And you're going to feel happier as well. And I just found myself being happier on a daily basis.
Funny you say that. Like, I'm a big believer in, you know, the energy, the frequency, or whatever that you put out, it kind of attracts that into your reality. And right now, my wife and I, we're actually either legitimately seriously looking at some kind of thing here, or Dubai, or a combination of both. And our mindset for it is, it's not that we don't love where we live, we do, and it is great on the Central Coast, which is north of Sydney, but it doesn't have the same level of entrepreneurial mindset, evolution, growth mindset that you find in hubs like Bali or hubs like Dubai, especially in the fitness industry. I think you got kind of 4 areas on the planet right now that are like just fucking smashing it in fitness: Dubai, Bali, the Gold Coast, and then probably Tampa or something like that in Florida. They're 4 big pockets of like, everyone's just there, everyone wants to win. There's none of this like competing with each other. It's just like, go out there, there's enough for all of us to be abundant in, let's go do it. You know? Yeah.
So, you know, I found myself infatuated with the environment, the people, and the low cost of living helped. You know, your money goes a lot longer here. And like you said, you know, I call it this fertile soil in Bali, in the sense that, you know, it's a great place to grow stuff, you know, whether it's growing yourself or growing your businesses. And I found that Perth, for me, when I look back, was very sort of infertile or stale, in the sense that, you know, everyone's sort of following this same sort of track where it's, you know, get some basic accreditation post school, and then sort of locked straight into a job that's
Go
sort
be
of
an accountant,
9 to 5,
teacher,
Monday to Friday, and the goal is sort of get that mortgage as soon as possible, have a car or two in the garage, and that's the model, you know, and don't deviate from it, or you're sort of going against the system. And I just didn't want to be a part of that system. It didn't appeal to me, you know. It didn't appeal to me to be having this mortgage at 28 and then to spend the rest of my 50 years paying it off, you know. That I didn't want to work for that, you know. So whereas in Bali the mindset's completely different, you know. You work to play and you work to live here. You know, you don't work to pay something off. And I think people are a lot more free thinking here, and a lot more willing to have shots at different business ventures and projects, and a lot more willing to sort of go against the grain and go against sort of the typical Western mold that so many people are following.
Well, I think it's like, you know, those 4 hubs that I mentioned, I think it ultimately comes back to an entrepreneurial mindset. An entrepreneurial mindset, I think, by its definition, it's one where you're constantly testing yourself, taking yourself outside of your comfort zone, throwing yourself in the deep end, and taking a risk on things. And I think the point you made there about work to play and work to live, that's massively, because I think back in the West, especially in Oz or most Western cities, most people, whether it's in the fitness industry or not, that's what they're fucking doing. They're in that kind of, and they don't even realize they're in a slave cycle, generationally too. Not just them, their grandparents, their great grandparents, and if they're not careful, they're fucking kids. You know, so I think being exposed to, you know, it's almost like exposed to an education and information in a place like this that you just won't get back in Melbourne, Sydney or Perth.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And so you came over here, you obviously made that move, things grew quite fast, you obviously, you know, got your online coaching business to, you know, a certain level. Then you got sick.
Very badly sick. So really, I'll try to summarize it as best I can without getting sort of too much into it. But I mean, it began with a very strange, spontaneous, twisted intestine, which put me in the hospital for a week and a tube down my nose to alleviate the twist. And that was, again, at COVID time. So spending a week in a Bali hospital during COVID, let me just say, was not a good time.
No visitors.
Yeah.
You probably had the mask on.
No visitors.
The tube.
Like, you know, they were on sort of expense reduction, so like most of the lights wouldn't be on, and they only had a few staff patrolling like 10 floors, so it literally felt like you're in a fucking ghost town. Wow. A haunted hospital, if you must. And then that sort of was soonly followed by me taking a tumble and injuring my lower back, and then that got infected, had to have surgery under general anesthetic, and then another sort of probably the major con to the Bali move is the medical system. And I didn't have the opportunity to fly back to get proper treatment because the borders were shut, so I was forced to have medical treatment here, and they just, you know, the knowledge and experience is not the same. It's incomparable to the medical knowledge in the West. And so sure enough, you know, I got served pretty hard, and they not only cut out of my back way more tissue than they should have, but once they cut this massive chunk out of my lower back, they tried to stitch the wound over the top, and leaving me with this big sort of like cavity in my back, sort of sealed over by skin. But you know, any good doctor would know that if you do that pocket's just going to fill with fluid, it's going to turn septic, and then the infection's going to come back. And then their analysis was that they didn't get all the bacteria out, so then they sent me into another surgery, cut more tissue out, made the same mistake. Then things started to get really a little bit scary because the pathogen had started to move through my lymph nodes to other areas of my body. So I had now infections in my lymph nodes, in my armpit and in my groin. So the bacteria was really starting to sort of get chronically across my whole system. I was starting to get very unwell. You know, muscle wastage was happening, and I was sort of losing kilos a week. And then I was having sort of 3 surgeries at a time under general to try to get this bacteria out of my system. And then thank God that borders opened just after this. So after the 3rd surgery, I was able to get straight back to Australia and go see legit medical treatment, and they made me aware of just how ridiculous all of the treatments that had happened so far to me.
Sounds like you're a bit of an experiment.
Oh yeah, well I think they were just trying to make their best guess. So, you know, I made the joke to one of my friends that like I felt like I was getting treated by like Dr. Nick on The Simpsons. just
Put back together.
Yeah, just really had no idea what they were doing. And you know, the Australian doctors, they said they just really have no idea what they're doing. He said that, you know, back with the Bali bombings, they would sit in on the operating theatres in Bali, and they'd have to like run down and like, don't pull that out. That person's going to die. You know, they just don't know what they're doing. So I had the right treatment, and they made me aware that you can't just stitch these massive spaces where you've got all this tissue missing. You have to open it up. We have to pack it every few days, and it has to heal from the bottom. So because of all the surgery, all the tissue that they'd removed from here, under my nuts and in my lower back, you know, they said, right, you're going to have open wounds for probably 8 months here. So that was the start of a long, long road to recovery. And
dark night of the soul.
Yeah. So I got to the point where I felt like I knew what the treatment was. It was just going to be long as fuck. Went back to Bali, and basically I didn't leave my apartment for 8 months because I had 3 open wounds. If I left the house, I'd start sweating, and then my bandages would run and blood would start going down my back and risk more infection. I couldn't shower because I lived by myself, had no one to protect the wound, so I'd be sitting in these pajamas for 3, 4, 5 days in a row. Like, it was a disgusting time of life. And you know, I wouldn't see anybody because I detached from social media, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. And I was just sort of like in my head for all hours of the day, you know, and social media dropped rapidly because I wasn't putting any content out.
Business.
My online revenue dropped about 40% because, you know, once your clients don't see you in the trenches, they don't want to be really a part of it anymore. You know, certainly you're not getting any new client inquiries. And, you know, I really felt like everything that was going so well and so fast leading up to this just took a hard reverse and was almost sort of getting flown backwards faster than I arrived here. And, you know, and that's not even accounting for like how bad my physique was looking, you know, sort of week by week. So it was just a very demoralizing and depressing time. And with an 8-month recovery period of not leaving your house, it's too far to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I...
Which it's for, I mean, look, you know, people use the word trauma, but it's psychological torture.
It was warfare in my head, like on a daily basis. It really felt like I was going war with myself every day because I didn't have a reason that I felt to get out of bed anymore. And that was hard. You know, I'd have my cleaner sort of walking in at 2 p.m. and all the curtains are shut, and I'm there in my bed, and she would just sort of walk past looking at me like I'm just this zombie, you know. And I mean, I'm not proud of the way that I handled a lot of it, because it was in hindsight a lot of weakness, but I now understand that, you know, I hadn't ever really worked on my mental strength before. And I was not, because I'd never really prepared myself for unchosen suffering. When it got thrust upon me, and I just didn't know how to cope with it. I was very, very unequipped. And it's something that I'm going to talk about a lot at Clean Health Live in a few months, is mostly just how dark I went, and then what I did to sort of climb back out of that hole, because there was a hole where I sort of felt like I was on the brink of death in many ways, you know, and I had some very dark regular thoughts on a daily basis that I'm not proud of, but that was the reality of them. And there was definitely a turning point, and I'm so thankful that the turning point happened, where I found connection in what's called this hero's journey in anime. And people might sort of laugh at it as being like a children's story or something, and that's fine. But what the hero's journey is a common theme or I guess story that's inbuilt into a lot of animes. And what the hero has to go through is this thing called the ordeal. And the ordeal is described as where the hero is taken into basically his innermost, darkest cave to confront this hostile force. And confronting this hostile force will take the hero to the brink of death, you know, like right to the limit. But this is not the end of the hero's story. It's just the part that the hero must overcome to reach the victory and the success that is promised afterwards. And I just, I'm so happy that I had this realization and this connection, because I kind of just felt like this is my ordeal. You know, maybe this is the thing that I've got to get through to be able to have my hero's success and victory down the line, you know, because I really feel like this is the biggest hostile force that I've encountered in my life to date. But maybe it's the one thing that I need to overcome to be able to take my life further. And in a very strange way, you know, confronting it was arguably the most important and best thing that's ever happened to my life, and the reason why I have the success where I'm sitting here with you today. And so after I had this realization, I decided that no, I'm not going to be a bitch and sit in my bed all day, you know, being a weak human. I'm going to, there's not many things I can do, but what I can do is I can read, and I can build up here. And so I started researching sort of discipline, psychology, mental strength, solitude, resilience, day in, day out. And this is why I'm so thankful for doing my PhD, because PhD taught me a lot about nutrition, but the most important thing that it taught me was how to critically analyze research and how to take the important parts from that and apply it in practice. So I took all the skills that I learned in my PhD, and I just started, instead of applying them to nutrition and training, you know, I was applying them to psychology. And as I would be reading through and making these notes, I really felt like I was just curating this playbook to success. I was making all of these discoveries that really revealed massive flaws in my previous approach to life. And you're reading, I was like, no wonder I fell apart when this happened.
You'd never hit any adversity.
Yeah, I'd never hit any adversity, and I'd never been practicing the things that all my readings would say you need to be practicing to be able to be a mentally strong individual. So I just started creating what I felt was like this playbook that I was going to apply, that was going to lead, that was basically an evidence-based roadmap to success. Yeah. You know, and I really felt like I was just like, I was this guy just stumbling upon all these cheat codes to success that no one else had access to. And you know, they completely changed how like I structured my life on a daily basis. And you know, I went into this when the first injury happened. It was the start of 2022. Actually, right at the end of 2021 was when I had the intestinal issue. And at that point, you know, I was in Bali, and I had a successful online coaching business and a decently successful social media, but no other revenue streams, like nothing else, you know. And then I got thrown into that ordeal, and you know, now here we are at the start of 2024. After going through the ordeal and then applying that success roadmap and
applying the information
that was
it's where people fuck up. I'm even looking at the shelf there. There's like Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins and a few other things, which, you know, most books like that are going to provide value and maybe a few pearls or gems that you can take away. But I think where a lot of people struggle is they get the information. It's like a professor at university teaching about sports science, but have they actually squatted 3 times body weight?
Yeah, well,
they don't apply it.
These books are bestsellers every year. Why is no one successful?
Yeah.
Why is only a handful successful if these are selling millions of fucking copies every year?
Yeah.
It's like something to be said there. You know?
It's the application.
Yeah. And I did. I applied what I learned, and you know, now that I'm sitting with you, I can say I've got. And I don't want this to come across as boastful, but I want it to be more so like motivational to people that can show so what you can do by really applying yourself across 18 months is, you know, we've got 2 villa projects, 2 restaurants. There's probably going to be 10 by the end of the year.
Minimum.
A gym that's going to be ready in October, running fucking awesome camps in Bali, have an online coaching course, and speaking at the biggest fitness events in Australia. Like 18 months ago, I didn't have any of that. You know, I had none of that. I was just an online coach and probably, you know...
An online coach dying in his villa in Bali.
Like arguably in a worse position than probably a lot of people listening to this podcast are, you know. So I hope people can take away that, you know, 18 months of real 100%. Smart application can do quantum leaps for you. And
then just imagine if you apply that for 18 years, 10 years. It's something I talk about, like, it's so interesting hearing that because... Like me, myself, I've kind of gone through 2 dark night of the soul experiences where you kind of, and my first one was at 31 and I got struck down, you know, with an autoimmune condition. I was opening my first gym. I was thinking, oh, it's time to get married now and have a family because I was 30 and that's what I should do. And, you know, what I found from that process, I probably didn't listen and hear the signs from it going through it. And so it happened again when I was 38. But I look back at those now. Did I have suicidal thoughts during those times? Yes. Did I feel worthless at those times? Yes. Did I feel weak at those times? Yes. Did I feel all of those things? Yes. But you know what? I look back now and I'm fucking grateful for them because you don't know what good is unless you know what bad is. And sometimes you need to actually go through the bad to say, you know what? I'm not necessarily against that because I think sometimes when you're against things, you can create friction and attract more of it. I'm just not for it. I'm just not for being that person. I'm not for being that person that doesn't want to get up at 4:30 a.m. I'm not for being that person that doesn't want to train in the morning. I'm not for being that person that doesn't want to fucking take a chance on business and life. You know, I'm just going to go all the fuck in. And I think I had to go through my version of your journey. And, you know, a lot of entrepreneur friends and people that I know in the industry, the most successful ones have actually gone through probably the most amount of pain.
Yep.
You know, so it's like, I almost think it's like a rite of passage. You know, and it's like for those that are sitting there right now, like, you know, fuck, you're going to have moments like that. But I think it's that quote from Eckhart Tolle, is like a philosopher or whatnot. It's like this too shall pass.
Yeah. It's funny that you've noticed that with your observations because it's actually backed by research and a number of different lines of research. Like we have, like one line of research is we have this thing called helicopter parenting, which is like the parenting style that tries to like protect their children from going through hard things. So they might not let them go out for combat sports because they might get injured, or if they're struggling with their homework, they might sort of help them get the answers and things like that. And when you track these individuals into later life, they tend to be less successful and more prone to depression later on in their years. And then you've also got other research that shows that the individuals that have typically gone through adversity, they have higher goal attainment later in life as well. So it's what you've just seen just through your own lens and just noticing through your own observations. That's actually backed by the research as well.
On the kid one, you know, I've got 7 kids and 3 of them are step kids. One of my step boys, he was burnt, 3rd degree burns, skin grafts when he was 18 months old. So he was in hospital for like 10 or 12 months at 18.
Wow.
Right. So like full vicious. He has massive scars to this day. Obviously we come in a blended family where you got like ex-parents and things like that and remarriages, and you know, it could be quite emotionally confronting for kids. Out of all the kids, he's the most resilient motherfucker. He's 14. He doesn't give a shit what people thinks. He doesn't care. He, like, I've seen him get sick. I've seen him like break a leg. Like, whereas some of the other kids would be like, you know, going inward and whatnot. And there's, again, they have to find that out. It's just the resilience because he's experienced a high level of trauma like at 18 months old. It's almost become a subconscious programming thing to him. Because so I know I look at him at 15. I'm like, man, you're going to be good in life.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what you'll do. You're going to be like a fucking cat that jumps off a roof. You'll land on your own 2 feet. But it's because he's gone through high levels of resilience at such an early age.
100% agree.
So talk to me. I've got this, and I'm very honoured to be wearing in camp. Jackson told me that to wear this, I might have to go in men's classic physique. Look, if one person was ever going to get me to do a comp, mate, it would be you. But I've actually, look, you know, I've been in Bali the last 9 days, and you've obviously been in camp. I've been watching this from afar, and just Like, tell me about it. Like, what has been this camp concept that you've done? Talk to us about it. Like, what kind of spurred the vision? What's it all about?
So my biggest love above all is sports and athletes, you know, and that's what led me to my initial studies, you know, that got me here. And my dad was a professional AFL player, and you know, so our family was fed based off his athletic prowess for a number of years, and so I pursued football in his footsteps as well. Got to waffle level, semi the level below AFL, but once you're sort of like 22, 23, you kind of know that you're not getting drafted, and then it becomes like all right, I'm getting paid $300 a week here for a part-time job, basically. How much do I really love it? And once the drive towards AFL wasn't there anymore, I realized I didn't love it as much, you know, to be putting that amount of effort in. So then that's what led me to pursue bodybuilding. And absolutely, bodybuilding is one of my loves, and I put my all into that. But from doing all my years as a sports athlete before bodybuilding, and playing waffle and being a national rower and going through like the sports camps that we used to go to, you know, they're some of my best memories of all time, you know. And it's like when you're in camp, it's like the rest of the world doesn't matter. All that matters is your boys, your team, your training, your eating, your recovery. That's all that matters. It's so hard to
capture that as an adult.
Yes.
Because if you're out of the sporting scene and your professional career, you just weren't good enough, which is totally cool. It's kind of, for most people, that's the last time they experience that.
I know. And it's sad because, you know, a lot of people pursuing sort of competitive goals nowadays in adult years, but there's the pull of the mortgage and the finances and the business stress and the relationships, and you just can't have that same sense of like being in camp. And then what I also didn't like about bodybuilding is that it's and especially sort of being at the bodybuilding shows, it's like all of these individuals showing up in their hoodies like by themselves, and everyone training by themselves, and no community, no camaraderie.
It's not how it was.
It's not how it used to be.
It's not how it was.
And I never had my time sort of going through that, but I've pulled up the videos and the documentaries, and I've seen what it used to be.
You see with
like.
Muscle Beach, with Schwarzenegger. I mean, my granddad used to do it with Reg Park and all that back in the 50s and 60s. It was different. Like the athletes played together.
Shows together, go on the bus together. I've seen all of that.
And then compete.
Yeah. But nowadays, new school bodybuilding is very different. It's very isolated, and it's very a single man sport, or an individual sport, I should say. And I just had this idea pop up into my mind where I was like, surely it's not that hard to bring, you know, like sports camps and training camps into bodybuilding. Like surely it's not that hard to bring the team aspect into bodybuilding, because from what I know through being on a team for the first 22 years of my life is that individuals on a team are stronger together than the sum of the 100%. Parts. And I'm just certain that if I can bring bodybuilders together through around the world, bring them together, that we can all become stronger than if we were sort of just all pursuing it alone. And so that was when the seed was planted. And
when was this?
This would have been, I mean, I work quick, so it would have been June of last year.
Okay.
June of last year was when the first seed was planted. And then I was like, but I want it to be, there needs to be an elite feel about it. It can't just be like a bunch of randoms. It needs to be sort of a high level of success buy-in, so that it can be an element of success breeding more success, and there can be sort of this draw of like people wanting to be in it, you know. And then I was sort of faced with the challenge of like, how's this amateur who hasn't competed before gonna convince 20 pros to come out to his camp? And you know, I got turned down a lot, you know, but those people that turned me down, I fucking know that they'll be regretting that after seeing what we did this week. They'll be gutted, you know, and too bad, you know. Like, if you, I can understand why they didn't want to take a chance on me, but I got no track record or evidence for this event working.
But note to those listening, like, you didn't give a fuck. You just backed yourself.
Yeah.
And you stuck to your vision.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I just kept asking people, and yeah, I got knocked back a few, but then, you know, every 5 that knocked me back, one would be like, yeah, fuck it, why not? Like, I like your concept, you know. I don't know if it's going to work, but your concept is sound, and I can get behind this. And I just sort of grew the team little bit by little bit, and managed to get sort of a group of 20 pros together with 5 high-level amateurs sort of pursuing the pro card in the next 12 months. And what I was just hoping was that we could bring the element of training camps that, you know, all other sports teams do, and bring that into bodybuilding, and make bodybuilding sort of a team sport for a week where we're living together, pushing each other, learning from each other, you know, and just making everyone better. And the beauty of the training camps is number one, there's a competitive element. No one wants one of their other teammates to outdo them, you know. So we're on the Stairmaster together, and if someone bumps it up a level, everyone else bumps it up a level. You know, they don't want anyone else to outdo them. So we all naturally sort of elevating because of that. And then, you know, we're in the dining hall, you know, no one's ordering food in because you don't want to be the weak link in the group.
Yep.
You know, so everyone's got their scales out. Everyone's weighing out all their food, you know. Pump is catering all the foods of chicken, steak, rice, potato. So everyone's locked in, you know, because you don't want to be the weak link in the group. That's, again, the power of the team and the accountability of the team. And then, you know, there's a few guys in prep during this camp. And, you know, if anyone that's been in prep before, you know, some days you're going to feel low. It's just the reality of the game. You're never going to be bouncing around and feeling your best all the time. And, you know, when some of those guys have their low day, or the girls have their low day, you got teammates around you to give you extra support when you need it, you know. So the camp just beautifully works in the sense that it pulls up people who are struggling, and it gives this extra sense of accountability to block any sort of deviations. You know, you just don't think about slacking on your cardio, or you don't think about missing a rep, or you don't think about having some extra food you're not supposed to, because you got a team around you, you know.
It's the power of community.
It is the power of the community. And you know, we there were 25 people that went into this camp, you know, and a few people knew each other, a few maybe followed on Instagram, but largely, you know, there was no friendships there. But, you know, 1 week together smashing each other in the gym, you know, being there for 5 a.m, wake ups together for the cardio, doing ice baths together, doing saunas together longer than we wanted to, you know. Like, when someone wanted to leave the sauna, this actually happened, you know. Someone gets up, no, stop, don't, you'll regret it, sit back, you know, like that's what was happening, you know.
That's what happened at camp when you're at school.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we came out of that week like fucking family, you know. And
you could see it,
and
you could see it in the videos, and you know, a lot of the people there I hadn't heard of before, but literally every single person there was like sharing, posting, commenting. It was just it went much bigger than I originally anticipated. You know, I always knew that we would be able to get like the physical and the mental benefits from it, you know, from the training structure and all of those things. But what I didn't expect was sort of the deeper emotional value that came from it, and the team building. You know, on the final day, when we were just wrapping up, I got everyone to sort of say something that they took away from camp, or something that they were thankful for from the camp, you know. And there was some athletes there saying, you know, like, I've got no friends back at home. I've never felt like I've had any support in this sport, and for the first time, I feel like I'm a part of something. And you know, there were tears, man. And like, me seeing that, I was like, fuck, we've created something much bigger than bodybuilding here. You know, this is truly life-changing stuff that we're doing here. And you know, like, the beauty of pro camp was that no one was making any money from it, you know, but everyone took away value. Everyone fucking took away value. And what would you say was your one big takeaway?
My biggest takeaway was probably that, like, I knew my story, and I knew that the reason I have success today is from the adversity that I've had to go through. But I just didn't realize how much adversity all the other athletes had gone through as well. We had some time to sort of open up and go around and sort of say some things that show some vulnerability to the rest of the group. And you know, I'd obviously somewhat known all of these athletes, but I had no idea about their life story, and I understand why, because these are things you don't share publicly. And you know, I sat back and like I processed after this like discussion. I was like, this is the reason probably why they're the pros. Like you said, they've had to be taken to breaking point. That's what taught them the resilience, and it's that skill of resilience that no doubt has allowed them to pursue the higher ranks in this sport. You know, because getting to, you know, they just released a statistic that like 0.01% of 0.001% of NPC registered athletes ever turn pro. You know, so it's a very small fraction of athletes that actually get the pro card, and I had 20 of them sitting in front of me, and almost all of them had been through like some serious like life-changing shit. You know, and I was like, maybe like the adversity, maybe this is like a big part of the key,
the secret sauce.
Yeah.
How did you find, because obviously, you know, going from like online coach to then starting businesses, but something like this I can relate to, because all of a sudden you're getting about a bunch of, we'll use the term alphas in a room, but now you're the leader. So how did you find like an environment like that? Do you feel that you've come to understand yourself a bit better as a leader and I guess motivator and bringer together of people?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be completely real. Like, I did have some imposter syndrome going into it, because like it would be easy for someone from the outside to be like, this fucking Jackson guy has never competed, like he has no successful competing track record. He's an amateur. Who the fuck does he think he is, trying to run a pro camp, you know, and telling pros what to do? So like that thought process can like get in my head. But then like the quote that I try to live by is, every great man was once an actor of their own 100%. Ideal. And so I just, whenever I'm feeling nervous about something, and you know, this was I actually even had the same conversation in my head before the Clean Health Live talk last year, you know, because this was me. People don't understand, like, maybe I looked all confident in that, but this was me coming out of the worst 12 months that I've ever had in my life, and almost ended myself, and really didn't have, like, you know, I felt like I'd just sort of taken a breath of fresh air. And
then Dane asked you to expose your trauma.
Like, Dane's like, go speak in front at the biggest Australian fitness event. And so like, I felt more of an imposter than anyone, because I just been being a fucking bum for the last 12 months. And you know, I just, it sounds cliche, but like before the talk in the mirror, I'm just like, act as the person you want to be, like not that you are right now. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to act like I'm Lane Norton. I know I'm not, but I'm going to act like I am. And then you go out and, you know, then people say, oh, you speak so confidently on stage. You know, you never get nervous. So like, I was nervous. I just choose to not show it. And so with the pro camp, it was a similar sort of, I guess, self-talk that I do with myself. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the ideal version of yourself? And my ideal version of myself is a pro athlete and a leader amongst pro athletes. You know, that is the ideal version of myself. That's what I'm working towards to get to. And you know, I want to build a team where I'm the captain of that team. And I'm not there yet. I'm not the pro yet. But fuck it, I'll just act like I am now. You know, and I'm a big believer that, you know, even if the shoes don't fit right now, you know, they're a bit big for you, like, wear the shoes of the person that you want to be, and over time, through your behaviors, naturally you will fill them. And you know, and then, you know, the week goes by, and then everyone says, oh, you did such a great job of sort of running the event and directing us and leading us and inspiring us and motivating us. So it's really just sort of mentally framing how you want to be in a certain situation.
I agree. Like, even when I was a coach, I never competed. I looked like I competed when I was a high-level coach, but I never competed. But I had competitors, sporting athletes, this and that. And I used to, when I started taking on all these competitors, there was people within the community who were like, who's this fucking Dane guy that all these competitors go to? He's never competed before. But then my clients were getting better results and getting pro cards. And so I overcame that self-doubt, that self-talk through doing two things. One was definitely becoming the person that, you know, and kind of framing that I was going to become that person. But the other thing is I went and skill stacked the information that I needed to become that person. So it's like, if I wasn't a comp prep expert, cool, I'm going to jump on a plane to the States. I'm going to go on Friday for a seminar that starts on Saturday, finishes on Sunday night, then fly back on Sunday, arrive on Monday, and be back at clients in the gym Monday morning at 5 a.m, which I fucking did, just for a 2-day seminar, just to go learn from a world-leading comp prep coach. So I think it's like, you know, sometimes whether it's a trainer or whatnot, like, you got to just take yourself outside your fucking comfort zone. And, you know, if you're lacking the information, then go and do courses, go and do, you know, I'd go and, like, you know, a young me would have gone to someone like you and said, hey, can I pay for an hour of your time? I want to pick your brain on these 3 things. You know, am I getting any certificate with that? No. Am I getting a qualification with that? No. But what I've done is I've circumvented my 18-year-old self to my 30-year-old self as a 25-year-old, and just extracted a decade's worth of knowledge, or part of it, in an hour from someone who's actually done what I want to do. So I think, you know, at least from an observation standpoint, it sounds like a lot of the athletes in the room there, even the amateur ones, like, just through radiation effect, you know, over the next 12 months, there's no doubt there'll be fucking pro athletes.
Yeah, radiation effect's a good way to describe it.
You know, but you mentioned and want to do a shameless plug for our thing, Pump. So let's talk about that, because I was talking to Jackson like a year ago. I kind of nudged him to come up on Clean Health and open up about some of the stuff that you're talking about now, which, you know, I think was great. I remember at the event we had, you know, people in tears, and your
fainting.
Yeah, fainting. Yours was actually, you know, one of the most well-received presentations, especially at the time with a lot of the presenters in the room. Like, you were probably one of the junior time frame in the industry, right? Like, a lot of the guys there 10, 15 years, 20 years in the space. A year ago, you were there as a presenter. A year later, you know, we're partnering up with Pump Kitchens. Like, talk to us about Pump Kitchens, because obviously I'd never actually been into it. I went into it the other day. I'm like, fuck, I can't wait to open up one of these near me so that I've got all of my meals sorted. Where did that concept come from? Like, how did that come to fruition?
Yeah, so the original idea for it came about during just when I'd sort of become faced with that ordeal in 2022, you know, where I felt like, okay, I up to the ordeal was like taking day by day and trying to not end myself. And then once I've sort of come to the realization that this is just my biggest mountain that I have to climb. And then I'd started sort of researching, you know, the psychology and the discipline and mental resilience and all of those sort of things. And then this was allowing me to curate this, like, success roadmap. And then as I was getting these clues towards success, you know, I felt like I really had, like, this application-based system to put into practice. And then I was hungry to try and start doing something, because I had all this time, you know, I'm not training, and like, no new coaching client inquiries were coming through, and I wasn't doing social media. And I was like, well, I have all this money, like, banked up. You know, this is the time to start applying some of these success clues and seeing if they actually work. And living in Bali, you know, it's so cheap here that it's almost cheaper to eat out than it is to, like, go to the grocery store and prep food and all of this stuff. And so I naturally was just sort of ordering all my meals, and just realizing, like, how much time I saved compared to, like, when I was back in Australia, you know, when I was having to, like, do the bi-weekly meal preps, go to Coles, get the chicken breast, bake them, clean it up, do all that, you know, on a daily basis, hours chewed up throughout the week. But I just did it because I never thought there was an alternative option. It was like, this is just what you got to do as a someone that's dedicated in the fitness space. You got to meal prep. Yeah. But then Bali introduced me to this idea where, like, maybe you don't have to meal prep. Well, I just naturally did it because of the cost saving. But then I became very aware of just how much time this freed up. And then I come to think, like, damn, this could, like, this is probably needs to be applied like in the Western world, especially to like online coaches and people who are running their own businesses, because they could probably stand to gain so much more financially by having their food prepared for them, you know, that's of no detriment to their physique goals, still probably tastes way better than what they can cook alone, and saves them a bunch of hours which they could better invest towards upscaling their business and driving more revenue. Because I kind of like did the math on it, you know, like let's say the buying your meals from a prep company or a restaurant versus cooking them yourself, you know, it might cost you an extra let's say $200 a week, $300 at max. But then if you're saving 10 to 15 hours a week, you know, that's sort of what we're looking at. Like your hourly rate is like $20 to $30. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm not taking a job for $20 to $30 an hour. No. And I would dare say most online coaches and people in the fitness space wouldn't either. So when I thought about it that way, I was like, it really is just a solution. It's such a good solution for people who want to eat good food that's on plan, trackable, everything precise down to the gram, and can free so much more time to actually allow them to drive and drive revenue and grow their business. But then the second issue that I was sort of proposed with was, I know a lot of restaurants out there, you know, they're showing the macros on the menus and stuff like that, but I know for a fact that the people calculating that aren't nutritionists. Yeah. You know, that some fucking, you know, fuck knows where they got their numbers from, but I know that they're not hiring nutritionists for that. And, you know, then you look at even like the commercial meals like Muscle Chef and stuff like that. Whereas, like, I've done the experiments for myself where I've bought 2 packets of the same meal and I've weighed out the contents of them, and there's like 120 grams different portion to portion. Yeah, wow. I'm like, well, then how can the macros be the same? Yeah.
And even not just for the trainer, but like if you're like, you know, I know when I was a trainer and you would have it now, how many clients do you have that you give them a recommendation to go and get their meals prepped? If you're giving them a recommendation to that, like, they're not going to get what they're paying you for, because they won't get in shape, and then they're going to be looking at you saying, well, you told me to eat this, I've bought this, but now I'm not getting the results that you promised.
Yeah. So basically I identified 2 major problems. Number one, meal prep takes a lot of fucking time, and it would be better spent sort of working on business and
yourself.
Working on myself and working on my business and my priorities, things that matter most. And number two, the restaurant options that are available that are showing calories and macros can't be trusted. And there's actually research to support this, you know, like it goes beyond my little Muscle Chef experiment. There's a research paper by Urban and colleagues where they basically use a bomb calorimeter where they take certain meals and they basically burn them in the chamber, and they're able to accurately measure exactly how many calories are in the meal, like down to the calorie. And they showed that they went, this was in America, they went across a number of different restaurant items, and they showed on average the stated versus the accurate calories in the meal were off by 20-25%. And some individual restaurant items were off by as much as 200%. Oh, wow. So that could mean you're going to Nando's, for example, and you order like the pita wrap, and it says 700 calories on the menu, right? So you log that in MyFitnessPal, you think 700 calories, but going off the data, you know, that could be
840.
Yeah, easily.
You do that once or twice a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah,
you've got a few extra 1,000 calories per week.
Yeah, and you know, you think when people are trying to have a moderate calorie deficit of like 300, 400 a day, you know, that's halved it. And then you get this case of people that think they've got like these broken metabolisms because they're not losing weight on 1,500 calories. But then a bunch of their stuff is being logged from like restaurants and stuff. We're like, that's probably the cause. That's probably the issue. So they were my 2 sort of fundamental problems that I wanted to solve. So I wanted to create a restaurant place where it could be a home and hub for athletes and people within the fitness space, where they could get good tasting food, restaurant quality food that was weighed precisely down to the gram, so they can have complete trust in their calories and their macros,
being advertised.
stay on plan. And it can be a place where they're able to save a bunch of time that they can better spend elsewhere. And lastly, try to provide an outlet, where people can have meetings and networking and stuff like that. And I think just with Pro Camp last week, having all the pros in Pump, like chatting and
what was the feedback like?
It was immense. Every single athlete was like, "Oh, I wish I had one of these in my
Don't worry, it's coming.
I wish I had one of these in my hometown. I'd eat here every day. I wouldn't eat everywhere else."
Side note: maybe we get them as the first bunch of franchisees.
Why not?
There you go.
And I when the athletes came out to Pro Camp, I catered for the breakfast and the dinner, but I said other meals, there's plenty of options around. Obviously, I recommend Pump, and a few people tried Pump on day one, and then every other meal they ordered by Pump. It was so good they were just like, fuck it. Why would I go anywhere else? It's restaurant quality. It tastes good. There's heaps of different options, and I know that what it says I'm getting, I'm actually getting.
I think, look, the thing I love about it, I think it caters to both the coach, whether they're beginner, intermediate, or advanced level athlete, but in particular clients. I kind of look at it as a fitness professional like you. It's like, how do you provide a one-stop solution for the trainer whereby they're representing their brand and product as the coach themselves, but also actually giving value to their clients? So it's like, I think, we've spoken about it before, brother. I think it's an amazing concept. That's why I'm all in on it. I think it also comes back to what we spoke about, though, last year. You talk about time in the trenches 12 months from now. It's like 12 months ago, we're at a conference coming on to do a thing. 12 months later, we've got a business partnership together. It just shows like how much if you stick to your guns, put out that kind of that energy, the habits every day, just how much your fucking life can shift, and the people that you affiliate with too in 12 months. Yeah,
big time. Honestly, I was shocked, but the secret sauce, as you put it, is daily work, daily investment. I'm big on journaling now. This was one of the things that I picked up from my hell year. Never did it before.
100%.
Only picked it up in my hell year.
I do it every night.
And what that does is it reminds me, I make sure that every single day is dedicated, at least somewhat towards those goals I have. So I have Pump goals, and I make sure that every single day there is time dedicated towards those Pump goals. And that's why you're able to do crazy things in 12 months. When people don't write things down, it's so easy to get distracted. There's so many things happening in our lives with fucking relationships and money and socially and fucking news, politics, fuck knows, sports, all sorts of things that, pulls your mind and your focus in different directions. But journaling and writing shit down every single morning, that brings you back down to base. And that reminds you of what the things that are most important in your life and what actions and behaviors need to happen today.
So how do you apply journaling? Because lots of people apply it, different ways. What's your protocol that you find works best for you?
Mine's more so, I have two parts. So first is sort of describing the person that I want to be, the ideal version of myself. So I basically, in my head, what I do is I imagine that if one day there was a movie that was going to be filmed about me and they were getting some other dude to play my character, what character traits and how would I want that character to be described? So what would I want that character to look like? And so, I have, for example, one of them, say, I am an IFBB pro.
Yeah.
And what that does is it makes me carry myself like I'm an IFBB pro, and I'm not one yet, but I do the behaviors every single day like I think an IFBB pro would. And I believe that that's how sort of manifesting works. It's not some fucking universal energy bullshit. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense you decide what you want or who you want to be. You do the behaviors, and naturally you sort of close the distance between who you are and who you want to be over time.
It's kind of programming the subconscious.
Correct.
So that, the same way you wake up and go to the bathroom or jerk off, it's the same way you approach your day.
Yeah. Pro Camp wouldn't exist if I didn't have this affirmation, because I'd be too nervous. I'd be like, fuck, I'm an amateur. I got no right to be inviting these pros. But because I've been telling myself for over a year that I'm an IFBB pro, I feel like, why not?
Well, look at it. You've just attracted 20 of them to come spend a week with you when, 12 months ago, you probably wouldn't have got that traction. So the first part is more about kind of future self.
Yeah.
What's the second part?
Non-negotiables that must be actioned on in that day. So that they would generally be split into like my different sort of like projects. So for example, like with the gym, it was like the revised drawings must go back today. Like no matter what fucking happens, doesn't matter what the time is, what happens in the day, this must happen. And then there's other things that relate to like my fitness, where it'll be like I do not eat a single thing off my diet today, you know, or I don't touch the handrails during Stairmaster today. I write these like non-negotiables, and then at the bottom of it, and this is why, you know, I don't typically call it journaling, I call it the contract, because I've written all of these non-negotiables and then I sign it at the bottom, like I was signing a contract that you've given me, you know. And if you've given me a contract and I sign it, I'm bound by the terms and conditions of the contract. Like and we don't think about not doing them, because we've signed it. We accept that we will fulfill those obligations. So I treat my journal like it's a contract. So I have these things, and
contracting yourself.
Some of these things are hard to do, you know, and like there'll be pump tasks that must happen today, like get the content done for the new product drop today. It has to be done. And then I'll sign it, and then it's like, okay, this is the plan that must happen. So I don't give myself an option to not do it. It's not like try my best to get through as many as I can. It's like, this is the list of things that must happen. And then you do that day by day, and it naturally forces you to stop wasting time. Because, you know, if you give yourself, if you leave the door a little bit open, you know, it's so easy to be like, I'll do that one tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know,
and then 2 or 3 days have passed, and
yeah, exactly. That's the difference between doing a whole bunch of shit in 18 months versus being sort of like, yeah, like I progressed a little bit. You know, I heard a quote, it was a few days ago, and he says, and it's so simple, but it says, it can take you 1 year or 10 years depending on how hard you want to work. And I was like, that's so simple, but I could not fucking agree with that more, because what I've done in the 18 months, someone could probably do in 5 or 6 years, and people would be like, yeah, like decent job, man.
Yeah.
But if you want to fucking go savage at it and work at it every day, you can shave that down like 80, that time cost by like 80%.
I agree.
So it's like I went from sort of a nobody at sort of 27 to being somewhat of a decent, successful businessman like before my 30s. So, you know, you can do so much with daily application.
I think it's the non-negotiables. Like for me, my two are meditation. For me, that's my form of like solitude. It's where I just zone everyone out, and you know, I'll focus on what I'm grateful for right in the here and now, and then I'll kind of create my mind movie of what today and what the next 1, 3, 5 years is going to look like. So that by the time I've played that mind movie in my head, I come out of that meditation, I'm like, that shit's already happened. It's actually happened. I felt it. I was actually there in my mind movie, playing that, experiencing that, sitting down, having a chat, eating that food, having that workout, signing that business deal, whatnot. It's already fucking happened. So all I need to do now, that I know in every cell of me that it's happened, is actually just match the habits every hour of every day towards that. And it's like, yeah, man, people underestimate what they can do in a year, let alone 5 or 10 years. And I think, you know, one thing that has kind of come across from you today too is that concept of delayed gratification. Because people, it's like everyone wants to be the overnight kind of TikTok sensation. They want to be the overnight online fitness coach or things like that. It's just like there's very few that actually stand the test of time in any industry, but in particular fitness, which is such a fucking transient industry these days.
Yeah,
you know?
I think something that my readings in 2022 taught me was that one of the key characteristics, there's 2 key characteristics in successful people when you look at the research. One is the ability to forego pleasure, and second is the ability to delay gratification. They're 2 characteristics that are typically observed in successful people. So I could not agree more.
So what's 24? What's the rest of 2024 hold for you? I know with Pump, like, I mean, even since kind of people have started seeing me posting stuff around it, and I guess we haven't formally announced it yet, but we're here now. I've been getting messages, hey, are you going to open one up in Dubai? Are you going to open one up, you know, in fucking Florida? I mean, I know we've briefly spoken about, where do you reckon we should open them, brother? Goldie?
I reckon Goldie's the place that makes the most sense for to start our franchise concept. Because I think with Pump, you know, I see it in phases, and the first phase was sort of establish a concept that was really successful and working. And I think just now, and I think even last week was sort of the pinnacle of
100%.
phase one.
Yep.
Was showing that we've got a really cool fucking thing here. You
Yep.
know, athletes love it. General pop people in the fitness
Well, even
community
just
love
even
it.
a tray that I brought in yesterday. He's not an athlete, but he's like, "Fuck, I'm not eating anywhere else. Can you get one where I'm at in the Goldie?" Like just people that are into the health and fitness. There's that trust there attached to it already.
I think we reach sort of across the whole spectrum of fitness. We please everyone. It's convenient. It tastes fucking awesome. Everyone now wants one in their backyard. So I think now phase two for Pump is to launch our franchise model and start taking this across Australia and across the world, because now we have real confidence that, you know, the Pump concept is something that's loved by everyone, and everyone's going to enjoy it, and franchises are going to be successful in all places where there's a fitness community. And now it's just about sort of bringing it to the people, I think.
And just on that, like obviously DM yourself or me on Instagram, but I know I don't even need to say this. We're going to be fucking selective with who we give these franchises out to. Like, it's not like, yes, you've always got to look at the commercial aspect in things. But for me, I look at it as like, if someone's taking on that franchise, like, are they going to go all in on that the same way they would in their own business, their own life and stuff like that? I think it's kind of like Pro Camp, mate.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, like anyone that is representing the Pump brand is a representation of us, you know.
100%.
And if I find out someone's making shakes out the back and not weighing their shit and just throwing in there, I'm gonna fucking come for you.
You'd be out in the kitchen all of a sudden, fucking
You'd go missing. So
get the kunai.
We will only work with the best sort of people that really believe in our mission and our vision and what makes Pump better than the rest, I think, which is that trust and going beyond the bare minimum effort that most
100%.
restaurants go to.
Over delivering.
Yeah.
So talk to us about Undefeated. Like, you know, I've seen, for anyone, you know, what's the Instagram handle on it?
Undefeated Gym.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the concepts, like it looks fucking amazing. What is Undefeated?
I mean, Undefeated in simple terms is a gym that's being built in Bali that will be open in October. But it's much bigger than that. Well, certainly is in my vision. I see Undefeated becoming sort of this bodybuilding universe and this major hub of bodybuilding in Southeast Asia, where we have the best bodybuilding gym in Southeast Asia in terms of the equipment and space and facilities. The best recovery facility in Southeast Asia with sauna, steam, monsoon showers, hot baths, ice baths, the first actual indoor recovery facility that's ever been launched in Southeast Asia, which I think is going to be awesome. It's going to give that real like athlete feel about it, you know, sort of like UFC Performance Institute kind of feels. Full 25-meter lap pool out the back, you know, the really going to every little detail to try and make it the best as possible. So there's that as part of it, but then, you know, sort of more broadly across the universe is we're going to create a hub for where not only can we run pro camps, but we can create an ecosystem where they're fed by Pump, you know, they can be housed close to the gym, have the best training environment possible to progress them as an athlete with a team of undefeated athletes around them. And you know, we already have 5 pros sort of signed to the Undefeated Gym brand already. And
awesome.
With my coaching, I plan to turn another 5 pro by the end of the year. So Undefeated is going to be this place where you can sort of come out to, and it's going to be the one optimal environment to progress as an athlete. You know, there's going to be no better environment like it for the food, the gym, the weather, the people around you. It's going to just be a place where you can really thrive. And we're going to open up to, you know, I have many more things that will come from this. You know, we've already launched our Undefeated cream of rice product, which will be the first sort of product under the supplement line.
I've heard Cade's been raving about that, mate. I'll have to get one off you.
No, I'll get you a bag. I'll get you a bag to try. You know, we'll have the clothing. Everyone will be decked out in the Undefeated merch, and then we'll have I don't want to give too much away, but we've got plans of having like really high VIPs in the bodybuilding space, top Olympians coming out to Undefeated to do camps, seminars, things like that.
Southeast Asia's Mecca.
Yeah, Southeast Asia's Mecca is a good way to describe it. And I'll give you the first sort of plug on this. This is a little bit down the line, but fuck it, we'll say it anyway. I also have intentions to run an Undefeated pro show very soon.
Awesome.
Which is again to establish sort of Southeast Asia as this really sort of strong and evolving bodybuilding hub, where you can sort of just this ecosystem where you put someone in it, they're going to grow.
And I think to your point, like just the lifestyle and the vibe out here, man, I think it's, you were talking about, you know, when people are in at camp, it's like you're at fucking camp. You're not on your phone, you're not on selfies, you're not doing that. Like that shit just doesn't happen these days, especially in fitness. So it's like if it's a place where you can literally unplug, like I make sure at the beginning, like 5 out of 7 days a week, I don't turn my phone on for 2 hours.
Same.
I do it deliberately just to fucking disconnect. I'll do I'll do my meditation or my journaling or time with the kids or training or whatnot. But it's like that detachment from, technology. Because I think that's where, like when you're in those places where it's just like solitude, whether it's solitude in a gym, solitude at home, it's actually where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's where the thoughts come. It's like those thoughts drop in. It's like all of a sudden, look at you. You went from kind of being in this place to having forced and imposed solitude, then all of a sudden all these these thoughts drop in. 2 years later, like pump, Koshiro residences, you got your clothing line, Undefeated, your online upgrade program. I mean, none of that would have happened had you not had imposed solitude.
Exactly.
And I think it's I think on that note, brother, we'll end it up today. I want to thank you for coming on. I think there's a ton of fucking gems to take away for all of your brands and businesses and stuff. Where do people find you, man?
I mean, my Instagram at Jackson Peos is probably the best spot.
Top of funnel.
Yeah, top of funnel. But I am working on my YouTube, so I think YouTube I'm putting a lot of effort into that. There's going to be a documentary series coming out on ProCamp. So,
awesome. Okay.
If you're keen to follow along with that, just search my name and subscribe to that channel.
I think it's so many creators and coaches these days are really trying to pivot a bit more towards YouTube. I think.
I think we kind of swung one way and then we swung back. Like we got hit in the fucking face by like the short form TikTok stuff, and like that was like everyone get on this, and then I think we've come to realize that we're extremely limited in value provision for short form content.
Definitely.
And we just really can't have the same sort of impact as we can in long form.
100%.
And, I got guilty in the short form trap, and then I'm posting these like 15, 20 second videos, to try to maximize the reach and the algorithm. And then I'm like, what the fuck am I doing actually?
Yeah.
Who am I helping?
Exactly.
And so I'm swinging back. I'm swinging back with the long form stuff, because I think that's where you can really reach someone and make a true difference.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching this on a reel on Instagram right now, head over to YouTube, because it's actually where the full episode's going to be, and stuff that's longer than 60 seconds. But again, thank you, brother, for coming out. I look forward to the year, man, and we'll talk soon.
For sure.